What's up, everybody, and welcome to Grubby Talk. Right here tonight, coming across on the KBF and the Grassroots Bass Yakin Facebook pages. I'm also streaming out the Fishing with Gramps because I want a bunch of new anglers to follow along on my channel to start paying attention and maybe think about hopping into a kayak. Tonight, we got a special guest, member of Grassroots Bass Yakin, former champion, angler of the year several times on many bodies of water. It's pretty awesome. It's great to talk to him. A teammate of mine. My brother and I were lucky enough to fish with Glenn and his buddy Brian Sparks, another champion at GRUBBY, down at the national championship. But real quick, wanted to get started. It's now February, and here in Indiana, Cole wanted me to make sure that I let everybody know Indiana Boat Sport Travel Show coming up at the Indiana State Fairgrounds, February 16th through 19th, and the 22nd through the 26th. Both of the GRUBBY main, two of the main sponsors, Moving Water Outfitters and Sun Valley Sports, are going to be there. There's going to be ponds, pools, whatever you want to call them, various kayaks in the state fairgrounds, so that you get a chance to do something that you may not get to do, is hop into a kayak and try something different. If you're a bank angler or been boat fishing for a long time and you've seen all the hype about kayak bass fishing, it's one of the largest, growing sports in the country. I think kayak bass fishing and pickleball. But again, Boat Sport and Travel Show, you're going to have all kinds of folks there. Chad Hoover, Gene Jensen, a bunch of other speakers coming up and going to be talking and really promoting the sport. Cole Ritter and the rest of the Grassroots Bass Yakin crew will also be out there talking about what it is that we at the grassroots level love about kayak fishing. So real quick, I'm just going to hop in and bring in the man, the myth, the legend, Glenn Landstrom. Glenn, thanks for taking your time out tonight to come chat with us. You've had a pretty interesting last week or so kicking off the fishing season. Everybody else around here is lucky to maybe get one cast in, and you've been down to Florida and doing some stuff. Tell us about your trip to the KBF TENvitational and kind of how it went. I'm sure most kayak bass fishing fans kind of know, but again, we got a lot of new people, and I know you do it, and several grassroots, grubby folks are reaching out to new people every day to bring people into the sport. So this is a little higher level than, the beginner series, if you will, because Glenn is one of our state hammers. But man, tell us about your weekend down in Florida, kicking off the TENvitational.
Well, it started out rough. It was very last minute. I was on the fence and off the fence about whether or not I was going to even be able to make it, finishing up a big project that I was on. But within about 2 days before I would consider too late, to get down there and pre-fish and figure something out, I made the decision and talked to my wife about it. And we were like, screw it, just go. I've missed the last 2 years that I qualified. And so anyway, took off Tuesday afternoon before all the snow came.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to leave Wednesday morning really, really early. And I told her, man, I don't want to drive 4 hours, in the snow and ice. So hauled ass early. And, I got down there Wednesday morning. I drove straight through. It was like 14 and a half hours. And I drove straight to Walking Water. And I drove to my campsite and threw up a pop-up canopy to hold my spot, and turned around and ran to Walking Water, which that's not the correct name. It's like Wakahaname Hibarahuba something. Can't pronounce it. But the locals call it Walking Water. So dropped in there, and there was like 30-mile-an-hour winds at my back from the ramp, but I knew I wanted to go to that far north end. There's 2 feeder creeks coming in up there. It wasn't the wisest choice because it was crazy rough. I had water just crashing over the top of the boat trying to stand there, and I was I threw everything that I had tied on, and then tied on some more stuff, and couldn't get a bite. Like I didn't get a single bite. I fished that lake for 8 hours that day without a bite. So didn't think, in a million years I'd have a chance, let alone catch a fish at that point. But I went back to camp and set up camp kind of early because obviously I was exhausted. Obviously I was exhausted. I hadn't been to sleep for about 2 days at that point. But I nestled into the bed of my truck and went to sleep. It's the first time I've ever actually roughed it at a tournament.
Yeah.
Normally get a Airbnb or something, but I have plans on doing several this spring. So I was like, try to save some money. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it was actually enjoyable, like an air mattress, and I put a little heater in there because it did get down to like 40 that night.
Okay. Yeah.
Had that iPad going, watching movies, and it was glamping in the back of my truck. But anyway, so let's see. Thursday pre-fishing, I went to Tiger 3 years ago when I was there. The day before the tournament, I had like 101 inches on Tiger. So I was like, man, I got to go to Tiger and see what's up there. And I didn't do well there either. I shook off one that was about 19, which I'm not good at shaking fish off, especially when I go to South Florida. It's like, if it bites the lure, I'm setting the hook. You know what I mean?
It could be the biggest bass of your life. You just never know.
You never know. And you drove a long ways to get there. Have some fun. Haven't fished in 3 months anyway. So, but that one kind of, I started to set the hook and then I saw it. So I was like, I let it go and it boiled some more. I was like, well, that's a decent fish, but didn't get a bite for several hours after that. Went to the other spot on Tiger and caught one about 7-8 pounds, something like that. It was a nice one. But that was it, 2 fish for 8 hours of pre-fishing. And I was like, that's not going to cut it. I went back to camp and relaxed, got up the next morning and just launched right out of camp there into Kissimmee. I had only fished Kissimmee once before 3 years ago. And I just got on a spot where I'd say within 50 yards or less, I had 6 or 7 fish. I thought they weren't big. They were all like 17 inches, 17, maybe an 18 in there. I thought, well, I finally found some numbers. The fish are here. If there's 17s, there's got to be bigger ones. So went back out Friday for a couple hours, last day of pre-fishing. Had to be done by 4 anyway. Okay. And same thing. I had like 4 or 5 fish in the same area, but about 200 yards down. They kind of set up the same. So I knew what I was going to do, at that point. But
now, as I understand it, everybody knows you around Indiana as one of our like local hammers, but you're originally from Florida, right? So are these places that you fished before, or did just, being from Florida and probably growing up fishing, I'm guessing, did you kind of have an idea what you knew you wanted to do just because it's Florida? I mean, how did that play in like your preparation?
I am originally, I was born in Georgia, pretty much right at the state line, but I grew up a lot of my life in South Florida, West Palm and Fort Lauderdale, down around Lake Okeechobee. So I kind of haven't had an idea of what I wanted to do. I like that they like creature baits, they'll hit moving baits, but I think you're going to get bigger bites, not as many, but you're going to get bigger bites punching. The big fish get big down there for a reason. It's not just because they have a lot of food. It's like the big fish up here, they're smart. They don't fall for spinner baits every day. But a bug, if it's realistic, I was like, this is what I was throwing. So I'm trying to put it on my hand so you can see it. But that's BizBait's Cutter Crawl. And they don't even make this one anymore. That's Embers to Ashes. It's black and red. It's a little different. Everybody
kind of reminds me like a red shad power worm from back in the day. But yeah, I like that color.
Right. And everybody down there throws black and blue. That's the big thing. So I wanted to throw something just a little different. And up here, pretty much everywhere. I mean, you go to Gunnersville, anywhere in the springtime, you're throwing fire crawl, you're throwing reds
Yep.
and oranges, right? And man, they keyed in on this, and I think the flap action is just crazy with it, you know.
And you just Texas rigging that? You weren't throwing on a jig?
No, I threw everything on a Tokyo rig. So
Oh, okay.
I've had 6 Tokyo rigs in my tackle box, rigged with Picasso's tungsten 1 ounce weights for like 2 years. I threw one time for like 6 casts out of bluegrass here in Indiana, and I never got bit. And I was like, so they've just been sitting in that battle box, you know, in that little thing. And I was rummaging around in there. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I thought, man, that's the perfect setup, because there's a lot of dead vegetation in South Florida.
Yep.
Well, Central Florida, South Florida, but you know, that stuff's down there. It's 1.5 inches, 2 inches deep down there, just muck rocks.
You've got a way to keep it just off of the bottom and give that perfect presentation.
I mean, that's down there just almost sitting on top of that muck. And dude, they just hammered it. I mean, just destroyed them. I went through the whole pack on day 1 of the TENvitational, and Jim Ware and I were back at camp super gluing these back together for day 2. It was crazy. But let's see. So what do you want to know? Day 1?
Yeah, let's start with day 1.
Day 1 started out kind of crazy. So I had I don't want to say complete, but I had a wire meltdown. I run that Yak Power light system.
Yep.
And it's a few years old, you know, and it's been underwater. Actually, I took on like 27 gallons of water on Kentucky Lake this year at the national championship.
Holy cow.
How I think, I don't know, but all that stuff was underwater. So I think it just took its toll on it. But I had no lights, no nav lights, no 360, nothing was working. My unit wouldn't work. I mean, nothing, because everything was run through, the switching system on there.
Right.
So right before the tournament starts, I'm cutting all those wires, stripping them all, and I take everything with me that I can think of, pre-hand when you're going that far from home.
Yeah, that's a good lesson learned. I mean, a lot of people don't think about that. You come off of one fishing season, and then you put your boat up and don't even think about it.
Right.
And then, you go back out and it's like, oh, no.
Yeah, always having electrical issues. I mean, I think Cole can even attest to that. Last year at the GRBY Championship, I launched, and it's like total electrical failure. And for some reason, I was composed, which isn't like me. I usually get, when something like that happens on championship day, I get worked up pretty quick. But I don't know. I held it together, and I twisted every wire I could find together, and just started pouring the solder to it, and got everything to work except for my like the blue running lights, that go all the way around the kayak.
Oh yeah.
But got my nav lights to work and got on the water, and then my 360 light went out. It was done. I don't know if it got too hot because it wasn't fused or what the deal was, but so we're taking off, and I'm worried I'm going to get DQ'd, because it'd come on for like 10 seconds and it would go off. And then at 60 seconds later, it would come on. So I'm steering, I point in the direction that I want to go with the XI3 and hit the heading lock on it. And I'm holding my phone above my head with a bottle. That's my 360 light, right?
There you go. You got to think outside the box.
Yeah. I mean, nobody said anything about it. And technically it is a 360 light. So
yep, that's great thinking.
Yeah. It was last minute, just Hail Mary, but it got me there. I got to my spot that I didn't really want to start where I was. There was just like this one little tiny pocket. I went back in 20 yards, just super calm water that I wanted to throw a spook in. And I throw it up there, and here comes another kayak coming right past me. I thought, that son of a bitch is going to my spot. I just knew it in my mind. I was like, he's going to my spot. How is this even possible? Because I hadn't seen a kayaker over there for 2 days.
Yeah.
And I ended up catching like a 2-pound crappie on a spook sitting there. I threw it back. I almost kept it. But I threw, for dinner at camp.
We'll get a sandwich while you're at it,
Dude, that would have been amazing. But threw it back, and I was like, that guy's my spot. I got to go. So I haul ass, come around the corner, and sure enough, it's like he studied my waypoints all night long. He was literally sitting on, he had his kayak parked on top of the Kissimmee grass that I wanted to punch.
Yep.
And but I thought, well, I watched him. I held back about 70 yards, and I watched the pattern he was throwing, which was a perfectly fine pattern, you know, for South Florida. Big black and blue worm or something to that effect. From that distance, it was hard to tell. Yeah. But I knew he wasn't throwing the pattern that I personally was catching him on, so that kind of helped my confidence a little bit. But I watched him, watched which way he was going, make sure he wasn't going to kind of circle back, and I went right up to that spot. I was about 70 yards behind him, and I flipped up in there. It was like first cast, I got like a 21 3/4, and it just snowballed from there. I think I caught one more, maybe 16, and then I left him, went around him about, I gave him some space, like 300 or 400 yards, you know, and then found my next pattern that I liked. It's just Kissimmee grass with lily pads right next to it, or Kissimmee grass with arrowheads, and then started punching away. And I don't remember where I had a pretty good first day, like 96 inches or something.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, it seemed like the quality of fish. It was just like Chad couldn't have picked a better time and place, you know, with those of us back here just like refreshing fishing chaos all day while we were at work. It's like, holy cow. But it's like the tanks and the number. Of course, we're all watching for people we know. And, you know, you just saw some monsters being caught while you guys were down there.
Oh, there was giants. I think somebody caught 125 inches or something.
I saw one that was 24, you know, so there were some tanks. I mean, it was, I couldn't even imagine. So you got through the day one, you know, you got a guy on your spot, you know. How do you adjust? And I guess what, you know, you've had a, you know, we were talking earlier, and, you know, we even talked about this when we were down at Kentucky Lake. You know, you've got other anglers that, you know, it always seems to affect, you know, or good chance of, you know, somebody else affecting what your game plan is. But we all know that's part of the reality of fishing, you know. And, you know, how do you keep your mind right just to get back and focus and say, I got to put that out of my way and just fish. So after this guy moves out, what's your thought of just, you know, I got to keep at it and keep going?
Well, we actually fish next to each other all day, and kind of off topic, but at the end of the day, I met him at the ramp, and we didn't become best friends, but we talked a lot, and, you know, friends on Facebook now, and it's super cool dude. Florida Jerry.
Excellent.
Is his name. It's super cool dude. But we fished right next to each other all day, and I saw him catch fish, you know, but throwing a different pattern. I mean, I still would have felt comfortable had he switched to punching right next to me, because I say it all the time. It's really hard to catch somebody else's fish.
Exactly. Yep.
If I'm catching them punching, if I'm in a bass boat, the guy behind me in the back of the boat or the front of the boat may not catch him punching. You know, it's all about the fall, the cadence. You know, that had a lot to do with it. I think just that feel, that braid coming through my thumb to get that precise speed every time played a big effect.
Well, I remember an interview you guys did with Sam Jones on HBK podcast with Brian Sparks, and you guys literally said it. I'm not fishing against so-and-so. I'm fishing these fish. Yeah. You know, it's as much as it's competition with all the other anglers, it's really you against the fish that are down there. I mean, it's just the way, you know, that's how fishing works.
Yeah. Especially finesse fishing. I think it plays even more of a factor there, because you have to really fool that fish. It's not a reaction bite. You know, when you're coming past them with a spinnerbait or a buzz bait or, you know, a rattle trap or something flat side, it's a reaction. It's just, you know, they're prone to do that.
Yeah.
But when you're finessing them, you know, when you got that little thing down there, and I imagine my bait, you know, a lot of times I even close my eyes and I imagine every little flicker that I do with the rod, or just tapping the rod, you know, if I'm bed fishing, you don't bounce it. You just,
Yeah.
just kind of hit your rod and send that vibration through them, because you don't want the bait to come off the bed. But so I just try to imagine what that little bait's doing down there, and I'm a hungry fish going, all right.
Yeah.
I like
I
that.
think a lot of people, they don't realize I've been fun fishing for many years. I tournament fished years ago, and I kind of found grubby once I got booted off the base that I work on, where I've been kayak fishing, since like 2010. I had no idea there was tournament fishing out there, and it's like, well, I'm just gonna go fish at bogs because and then I ran into maybe a couple of grubby guys that were coming off the water from one of the local derbs, and I'm like, wait, there's kayak tournaments. And I say that because it's like once I kind of started going out and then meeting everybody, one at a time, I start paying attention to the guys who are winning the tournaments. Kiefer, just all the guys that are in the local areas. And it's like, well, what are they doing different? And I realized when you talk about how just subtle the bite can be, or just the subtle actions versus, they always tell people when you're fishing, slow down. And when you think you're going slow down some more.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things I've learned from kind of studying you guys and watching is, you pair up the right gear with, tungsten weights and the things like that. It seems like with the advances in techniques and the equipment even that we've had over the last several years, you really can, like in your mind's eye, feel and see what the bottom kind of looks like. And so when you said that, I was like, I get that, because when I started picking up some different than just your box store rods and started throwing tungsten weights, it's like when you start pulling those, like a tungsten football head, for example, through the rocks or whatever, you almost feel like you see what's going on down there. So when you said that, I was like, dang, that's something I picked up over this last year, that I have to slow down and start picking up new techniques and kind of upping my game as well.
Yeah. Tungsten is where it's at. I mean, it's a little bit more of an investment, but it's not that expensive. I don't fish tungsten on 8-pound test,
Yeah, exactly.
It's on braid. Well, down there it's braid everything.
Yeah. Oh, I
Up
can
here,
imagine it would have to be.
yeah. I actually caught a few on a wacky rig with 10-pound test leader, and I was scared to death.
Uh,
But
I was sitting there thinking, I wonder if Glenn's down there with his Ned this weekend. Probably
no,
not.
I heard of a few guys that caught some fish on a Ned rig, and I thought, it's awesome. I wouldn't go and fish Florida with a Ned rig.
Yeah.
Personally,
It works up here, but man, maybe not down there.
Yeah, maybe on. So those lakes set up different than Okeechobee does. Okeechobee's got giant shell beds. Like, sometimes they're the size of half a football field, and you know it when you see it, because the water's 6 foot deep. You're standing up, and you can just see it. It's white, and when you find that, you're gonna, the bass are there. You can't see them because they're black, but they're there. And now Ned rig on that would be pretty cool. I think they would bite pretty well, and that would be fun.
Ticking across the bottom.
Light tackle, yeah. I think they would eat it really well, actually. But I didn't find any shell beds. I know there's shell beds in Kissimmee, but I could never find them. I looked in all my side views out 120 feet as much as I could, in that shallow depth. Never saw any bright returns, so I just stuck to punching grass.
Now, a question for you: when you're fishing in tournaments like that, and obviously it's a higher level than playing around with what we do back home. But are you watching the leaderboard during the day, or do you think other guys are sandbagging? I'm not worried about what they're doing. I'm just going to do what I do.
I was just going to do what I did. I've been guilty, like pretty much like everybody else, of I get a limit. I want to see where I'm at.
Yeah.
And now, granted, if I know I've caught 98 inches, I want to see where I'm at.
I get that. Yeah.
If I've got 80, I know I'm not good enough. Especially going down there with the Cody Miltons and the Josh Stewarts and the Russ Schneiders and all these guys that are in that tournament. I was like, and ladies, there's some ladies in there too. But I knew unless I just killed it. And I wasn't going to look. So I just loaded my fish and that's it. Now, I guess later on in the day, I'm not real good at keeping track of what I've caught. So I don't know what my smallest fish is. But to keep myself from looking at the board, I just took out my Sharpie and started writing the fish down on the deck of the boat, which is
Okay.
that's probably never come off the floor of the Hobie, but I don't care. I beat the shit out of my kayak. I mean, it's actually, I just turned in a warranty with Strictly Sail, and I'm hoping Brian can pull off a miracle, but it got a crack in it over the weekend on the deck. So apparently maybe I've been trailering it wrong, or they want you to have the cradles and all that. Hobie does.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So I think they're getting a lot more strict on warranty claims if they know you're not using their cradles, but we'll see. Brian's always come through for me, so hopefully maybe one last time. But anyway, so I started writing like 20 and a half, 20 and a quarter, that way I could keep track. But try not to look, man. I mean, because that gets in your head, makes you change, especially if you're in a finesse game. The last thing you want to do is hurry up, and that's a lot of the sandbagging thing in my mind. And Josh is famous for it, but in the last 2 hours, throwing up 90, like he did on day one, throwing up 98.5 inches. Yeah. And what that does to a lot of people when you're throwing that finesse game is that you're like, shit, I'm out of time. I got to keep going. He's whooping my ass. And it's smart. It's aggravating. Yeah. It's nothing more aggravating. You're like, "Ooh, man, I'm in third," and then all of a sudden, two of the sticks, the name brands of kayak fishing, throw up 100 inches, and you're like, "Damn, I knew it was coming, but I just didn't want to believe it."
So when you get back, I mean, you guys have the award ceremony. Are you fishing like individual tournaments? Is your sole focus on the 2-day results? What do you obviously you go down and do something for like that? Is it strictly I'm trying to do my best for each day, obviously to win because it's AOY points, but you're doing something to fish your way into a very special event. Was there any game plan there? Or was it just I'm just going to go fish and do the best I can and let it fall where it may?
A little bit of both. I mean, I wanted to get away, I kind of have a little bit of the winter blues, and it's like, I just want to go fishing. And that's where I started there, and then got down there pre-fishing. Now my next stage is I just don't want to throw up a goose egg. I want to get a limit. And even if it's 513, I'm literally in the boat at first light going 513s, 512s. I don't care. Get me 60 inches. We'll go from there and just start fishing, just try to have fun. My wife is constantly in my text message, get those fishes, just have fun, get out of your head. You're just there to have fun, just catch fish. So I'm constantly trying to learn that better, I guess. Yeah. I take competition. I don't even fun fish anymore. Like I haven't gone fun fishing in 8 years. If I put a line in the water, it's because it's a tournament.
Yeah, but got you.
Still have fun,
Oh yeah,
when
it's fun to win.
When I'm doing well. When I'm not doing well, it sucks, and I'm going to sell it all the next day.
And that's what I tell a lot of people. It's like when we look at stuff like this, it's a lot of people get into it. It's just a great way to meet other anglers and stuff like that too. And then there are those who've been fishing for quite some time, and they got into a kayak and got the bug, and then it's like, okay, how high can I take this? I mean, it's just one of those things. So you find yourself, what was that, 5th place on the first day?
I believe so. 5th place on day one. Yep, in contention.
So that had to feel pretty decent, knowing that, hey, I'm within shot. I've done pretty good today. Yeah. And you fished pretty much clean most of the day, didn't you? I think I saw you post somewhere that you might have lost one or something, throughout the day. But I mean, that's fishing, obviously.
Yeah, I think day one I may have lost one, but fished really clean. Yeah, day two was a different story.
So how did that? So you wake up, okay, I got a 5th place finish. I'm within reach. You know, it's doable. How does that day start out?
Amazing. I think a lot of people know. So yeah, 4th cast, I went back to I leaned on these fish. So I fished the same like 600-yard stretch for 6 days or whatever it was straight. I mean,
Yeah.
I just beat the crap out of that corner. But I went to the exact same reed every day, the exact same Kissimmee patch, whatever, started there. 4th cast, I think it was. I landed it was a giant, you know, it was like, it just missed making 24 and a quarter. Like I probably kept her on the board longer than I should have, trying to get that 1/8 of an inch, about what I needed to get 24 and a quarter out of her. But this is giant. Biggest tournament fish for me. I've caught some that big before.
Yeah.
My brother will attest to it. Actually, on Kentucky Lake, I had one that was about the same, you know, 11 pounds or so, and I never got a picture of it. I was holding it up. I was like, Corey, take a picture of me with this fish. And as soon as I said take a picture, that fish woke up and did this, and I couldn't even hold on to it. It just
Oh man,
right whoop, in the water she went. There's no proof.
I saw you hugging the fish, making sure that you were going to get some.
Oh yeah, yeah. I gave her a kiss and everything before I let her go, because I was hoping she would be there for the 10, but she wasn't.
So me, my brother, and Matt were like in our little group chat, and we were just like, "Oh my god, what a day! What a way to start the day of day 2!" It's like bang, he is right there in the running. I mean, you talk about starting the day with your kicker fish.
Right.
How do you settle down and say, okay, now I got to go catch 4 more after this?
It was actually, I don't want to. It was easy in a sense. Like in my mind, I was like, I knew that this bait and my presentation was gonna get bit, right? I mean, I was maybe overconfident at that point. So I went like to the next spot where I've been catching 20s, you know, flip, nothing, flip. I didn't catch another fish after that 24 for like 2 hours. So I was freaking out. I was like, I'm going to end day 2 with 1 fish. I really thought that's the way it was going to go. That's the way fate kind of deals her hand to me. But I don't remember what I ended day 2 with, 88 or 89 inches, which is still a good day.
Oh yeah.
But they were all 17s after that. Like all the big fish they either pulled up a lot shallower than what I could get to. My most shallow point at the bank I was fishing was 3 feet. And I do that for a reason. I know there were guys that were catching them in a foot, but that's like really rare in South Florida. There's so many ospreys and eagles and, you know, just random birds of prey, just tons of them, that they will go get a 10-pound bass out of 12 inches of water. So the big bass, they stay in 3 foot plus. So I picked an area, I got on my sea maps, and I changed everything on my maps in 3 foot to turn purple. So I don't have to go looking for 3 foot of water. It's laid out right there on the unit. Here's where 3 foot of water is, and then you can go right to it. But anyway, I don't know, I kind of got off on a tangent there, but day 2, caught the 24, didn't catch anything for 2 hours, and I think I limited out with like 17-inch fish.
Yeah,
what it was. And I had no idea. I had no idea I won it. I was back at awards, and I was bullshitting with. Can I cuss on here? I'm sorry, I shouldn't. It just comes naturally to me. I'm a redneck.
Yeah, I don't know how me, my brother, and buddies make it through a live stream without getting banned all the time, but
yeah,
we try to keep it somewhat. But I guess
I won't drop any F-bombs.
Yeah,
but I was BSing with my buddy Robert Weicker. He had won, and I knew I had finished, I think, 5th on the trail on day 1, so I was already in a good mood, you know.
Oh yeah.
And then I made the top 10 on trail 2 with a 9th place. And then they announced the winner of it. I was like, yeah, I was beyond myself. It was just crazy. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, I dreamt
I
about it.
mean, I don't think that's happened very rare, I guess. It's
I don't know
maybe
how
the
many
second.
people. I'd have to look. I mean, I'd have to look and see. I don't know how many people have broken into the tent house. I know
I
there's been
think you
somebody
might be
before,
like the second person that's done that. I mean, and I love the fact that you're breaking into the tent house,
right?
So you get there, and for KBFers, and those who maybe this is your first kind of hearing about, the tent house on the national level. Tell us the spread that they have for you guys when you're actually at the tent house, and the kind of everything they do to kind of to take care. For those who don't know, the top 10 that make the tent house starting out are the top 10 in the Angler of the Year race from the previous season. And
Right.
then, like where Glenn was, there was an opportunity to fish your way in. You win, you're in. And that was called the TENvitational, which is a 2-day tournament of the 2 trail events that he was fishing in. So winning that TENvitational over 2 days and fighting your way in. So you get into the tent house for the first time. What's that like? Are you just like the kid at the Super Bowl and like, oh my God?
Well, it was a little different format this year. So, I mean, I've seen the pictures, in years past of the guys in the mansion and all that, but Chad kind of switched it up this year, and he pretty much, this guy goes above and beyond, right? Even though it's not this $1 million mansion, or well, down there $10 million mansion,
Yeah.
$1 million house here in Indiana, but he pretty much rented half of a hotel. So it's like a fisherman's wharf down at Camp Mac, and everybody got their own double queen, private room, which I
So you got a
actually
big
like.
suite and everything, huh?
Yeah, so I mean, granted, hanging out in the house with everybody would have been fun as well. Maybe a little more camaraderie in that aspect,
Hell
but
yeah.
I liked the solitude of coming back, plugging in my batteries, my Miller Tech lithium batteries,
There you go.
but plugging in my batteries and just going into my room and just kind of relaxing. You know what I mean? Not having to entertain, not drinking. Um,
Yeah.
that kind, no temptations to get in your head. So I
Just being
do
able to
like that. I
focus and
think
get
that's the
ready. Yeah.
go from now on. But
You had to be wore out by then, weren't you? Because you were in a campground,
dude,
no showers, you've
yeah.
been roughing it out there just fishing
Well,
away, weren't you?
yeah, there was a shower at the camp house, and actually the campgrounds in South Florida are very well taken care of. It's super clean.
That's awesome.
But the shower wasn't the greatest. It was like, no water pressure. You barely get soap off of you. And then from there, I crawl into the bed of the pickup truck, and I've got a hard shell camper and keep the skeeters out and all that. But
Yeah.
um, it happened really fast. Like Chad's like, "Here's your room key. Here's your broom," and I go in there and there's the captain's bag. It's like manna from heaven. There's just everything you could ever look at. It's like, now that is a captain's bag. It was unreal. All the sponsors, Rogue Fishing and Yeti and Real Tree Fishing, and I can't. Dakota Lithiums threw in some things. There was a lot of stuff.
I did see a custom engraved bottle on somebody's
Oh yeah,
picture.
yeah. I got a bottle of Woodford, and
Yeah, I love me
it's
some Woodford.
stretched. I'm not gonna. I may open it someday, but to me, I think I may put it in my office. We're gonna start
Yep.
remodeling that and kind of make it a guest room / room for my fish
Yeah.
and trophies.
It's funny you
Yeah.
say that because I've got a bottle of Maker's Mark over here, and it's got the wax on it's from a special run they did for the Colts. Of course, the
Oh
Colts have been sucking for so many years that I don't really, but it's still a nice little memento that I got, or I received, and it just sits over there on the shelf, and it'll look pretty for years to come until they decide to start playing football again. But
yeah.
anyway, so you get in the room, you got all the goodies. So
It was a late night. I still had to drive 45 minutes back to camp and break my whole camp down, like the pop-up tents and the tables, and I had my coffee maker and all that kind of stuff all set up, and it's already like 9:30. That's late late for me. I go to bed early. But by the time I got there, it's 10:30, and I talked to Jim Ware, and we're messing around and BSing and whatnot. I get back to the room. It's, I don't know, midnight, 12:30, and I got to get up at 4:30 to go. We had till 4 o'clock the next day to pre-fish.
Okay.
So I did that. But yeah, I was wore out, but happy to go back to a real bed, man.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Now, you'd been beating up pretty much the same fish the whole time, right?
I had.
Did that
So
end up changing going into the first day, or you just
I went back to the same spot. So the pre-fish, I had a spot in the back of my mind on hatch. So I said, I'm going to pre-fish it today, and I'm going to pre-fish it hard.
Yep.
And I did just that. Like, I probably ran about 11 miles one way, just fishing as much as every little aspect that I could that set up the same as where I was on Kissimmee, right? I got bit once, and I left. I think I left 3.5 hours before time was over for pre-fishing, because I'd cleared my head. I had eliminated that water, because I'll second guess myself to the moon and back on tournament day.
be thinking about it all day when you should have just wiped it out?
Went there. So getting that out of my head was I think key to being calm on day one of the 10. Yeah. It helped a lot anyway. And I really wasn't that nervous on day one of the 10. See, I mean, it's a competition, the 10 house. Yeah. And, it is 10 of the best. Everybody there deserved to be there, all 10 of them. I just lucked my way in. But anyway, I wasn't really that nervous, because even though it's a tournament, I think it's it's just a fun tournament that everybody gets paid for. You're just out there. That's what it was to me. Like the trail 1, trail 2, that was a fight. Like I was in a tournament. When I made the 10, I was just like, I'm just out fishing for fun. That's what I felt like. I felt like I was fishing for fun. So, which that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, honestly, that sounds like, down here at the lower level, for me making the 100, I was like, okay, I'm here. I was basically staying out of everybody else's way on the last day.
I remember.
And then at the end of the day, I was like, Casey Reed ain't been over here all day. I'm going to go fish my spots and try to catch some fish and move up, which I did. But I mean, yeah, so I kind of know what you're feeling like, on a different level. But yeah, you just, it was like, I'm here and just let it fit and just fish. And basically at that point in time, you're probably just enjoying Florida at that time.
I was. And I think I don't remember what I had. I had all this stuff pulled up on my phone. I just got done with another podcast earlier, as you know.
Yeah, Glenn was on Pedal and Fin tonight. Yeah. So be watching for their next episode next week. And the man will be on with Pedal and Fin.
Yeah, with Brian, the winner. So day one, I ended with 88 inches. And I thought I was doing well. So I had checked the board about 2 o'clock, an hour before they shut it. They shut it off an hour before, right? So I checked it to see where I was at, and I was sitting in 3rd place or something. And I thought, holy crap, I may actually have a shot. And then Josh throws up 98.5 inches, and Jake and Derek and all these guys are loading their fish in the last minute, and I just right. So I'm in 5th place or something like that, 7th place, I think, going into day 2. And at that point, I was like, well, I don't have a chance. And my wife was like, listen, you made it. You won the TENvitational. You won this double up. You placed top 10. She's like, you've already won, right? I was like, yeah.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
She's like, just go out and have fun tomorrow and then get some rest and come home. I was like, all right, bet I'll do that. So day 2 was a struggle. I lost. Or did day 1? Day 2, I didn't. Day 2, I actually lost a lot of fish as well of the 10, which I figured out what that is. I didn't mention it before, but I had got hung up in the not the cattails, but the sawgrass so much. Like the lily pads, I would get hung up in a lot, but if you just pull, like grab your reel, pull straight, you'll snap those off, right? And then you just pick them up.
Okay.
The sawgrass is a different story. If the sawgrass bends over on you, you're not getting it out, and not in a kayak. There's not enough weight behind you.
Right.
So you have to pull straight up and essentially cutting the blade of grass in half, right? But in doing so, that point just constantly, because I got hung up every 2 or 3 casts. And
Gotcha. So you're dulling that point every time you're having to pull it out.
Yeah, I had no point, because at one point I pulled and that weight came flying back at me, and there's nothing, you don't want to get hit in the face with an ounce tungsten. So I did one of these, and I caught the hook in my hand, and it just kind of sat there. It didn't even poke the skin, and it came at me at like 60 miles an hour. I went, well, shit, that's what my problem was. So when I changed up, I started catching fish again. But very, very valuable lesson learned, because I didn't punch. Growing up in Florida, when I was younger, I wasn't out punching mats. I was throwing a Texas rig weightless worm, just playing around in ponds, trespassing on farms and stuff like that. But
now, when it's all said and done, like you said, it's a pretty successful weekend. You're way up there in Angler of the Year points, doubled up. You got the TENvitational trophy. I mean, you're a champion of one of the first tournaments of the year. So are you going to fish as much statewide tournaments again this year that you have in the past? Are you focusing more on like the national scene, or are you trying to balance it a little bit? What's your bigger focus this year?
I'm probably going to balance. I wish we were doing bogs. Gosh dang it. Jim,
yeah, I was like, I'm never going to beat Glenn on bogs now, because that was going to be one of my, like we told you, we have to have somebody that we got to try to beat who's the hammer on the lake. And now we're not even going to be at bogs anymore. I was like, sad.
I'm gonna try to do local. So years ago, back with the whole NC thing on Caddo, I kind of got it in my head, if I can lead against all these guys, if I'm that good in my mind, but I let it get here,
Yeah.
And the wife's always stay humble. And then for a moment there, a few years back, I didn't. I let it get in my head. I'm like, I'm chasing the national scene. I'm going on tour, And that just
that was actually one of the questions I was going to have for you. How did you know? And you kind of just answered it. How did you know when you were ready to make that next move up on stage? I mean, as I kind of look back, just after I got to tell this story, because this is when I realized, I was like, Glenn's got to be up there, because he's won a bunch. He's won grubbies and state challenges and a lot of the local stuff. I said, but the one thing, it's funny, we were talking about bogs. Last year, you went to bogs. You videoed everything you did to whip our butts, made a great YouTube video about it, and said, boys, here's the juice. And I know all of us watch that, and it's like, okay, let's go be with Glenn. Nope. Still whipped our butts the next month. And it's like, when you're in tune, I think, and at first I was attributing it to, he just really knows these lakes. And I was like, no, this shows what a versatile angler he is, because you bounce around. The funny thing about fishing in Indiana, it's like we have a little bit of every kind of fishing there is: rivers, creeks, pits, bigger lakes, it's all kinds. We are a great training ground, which I think is why we send so many high level competitors out into these tournaments like you were fishing in. But yeah, how did you know when you were kind of like, was it the first appearance in the national championship when you're beating, you were up there, and it's like, okay, I'm going to take a lesson learned here, but I am good enough to go compete at this level?
Yeah, I felt I was, but was quickly very humbled in knowing that I wasn't. I mean, in my mind, I never finished.
Well, I mean, but like you said, you lead the first couple of days, you're there. I mean, it just, things have to work, as you well know from what you went through for the TENvitational. You have to kind of stay after it, and not let little things get in the way of it. You learn lessons from previous, experiences, and then made something big happen out of it too. And the fact that you go down there and having not fished for 3 months, and just on it, it's wild. But I mean, that goes to say you're somebody who understands his electronics, his gear, and bass fishing in general, and just kind of put it all together and be consistent. And if there's anything that you are fishing, especially across the state, you are very consistent. You are always, up there, if not winning. And that's really awesome to see. I mean, it was fun picking you and Brian's brains when we were down in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And, for guys like me who are more of a fan that wants to really present kayak bass fishing to new anglers, it's fun to have guys like you. And it's like you said, when you went to the ramp after meeting that guy down there, one thing I absolutely love about the kayak bass fishing community, everybody takes everybody under their wings. I mean, if you're a new angler, there is nothing that another angler won't give you, help you. Every person I've met across the state so far has been absolutely amazing. And honestly, a steward for the sport. It makes it fun to have that, where everybody's kind of pulling for everybody, no matter what your skill level is. And I never really got that on the boat side back in the day. It was all zip, 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 I ain't telling you anything.
Right. Yeah. I tried the bass boat thing for a while. Didn't fare very well. I had fun, at least. My favorite part about fishing bass boat tournament was the ride home,
Yeah.
At least I could go 70 miles an hour all the way back to the boat ramp.
No, yeah, most definitely.
But that's the thing. Like, you fish too fast in a bass boat.
Yeah.
Most people do. I did. I know I was guilty of it. You pull up to a spot, flip it a few times, or run a few hard baits to it, not get bit, and you're like, got to jet off to the next spot. Where when you're in a kayak, you're going to pick that spot apart because it's going to take you an hour to get back to the ramp.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes you a better fisherman. It really does. It makes you.
I think you're right. I think I've had to grow a lot over the last few years as, I got out and started fishing with some friends, and we started doing these for fun. But then, meeting other people, and it's like, okay, he's the hammer of the lake. I got to try to at least compete, but you're not. You're competing against those fish. And the more I get into it, the more I enjoy it. And I encourage everybody that I meet, hey, go do it. I knew people, who on their first, year of running a little stuff would try to go down to a national championship. And that was the blast. I mean, that was an absolute blast. So I encourage everybody, hop into your local tournaments, around, find some friends and, find some people. There's Facebook. There's all kinds of ways to do it. The state challenges on KBF, don't be worried about cashing a check and all that. You're gonna pay the Glens and the Matts and the Hammers around the state for a while, but that's they're really good at what they do. But it's a fun learning experience, and it's something that a lot of people can get into as well.
I plan on fishing some grubby this year. Everything with me is 100% based on my customer base.
Yeah, I understand.
That little renovation company, and we also own tattoo shop. So it's like, if the people are booking, then I can't go fish. I mean, work comes first. And now, if I keep winning TENvitationals every month, I might not have to.
Hey, I'm telling you, yeah.
I don't have to do floors and pull toilets anymore. But that's a dream and a real long shot.
That's when you grow your business up big enough where you got other people doing the work for you. You're just assigning the work and cashing the checks, and then you go fish.
Yeah, I had that once. That didn't go over as well as I wanted it, as it should have.
That if I'm not doing it, it's not the same type of work. Not everybody can have. You gotta have people that have a good work ethic. It's hard.
Yeah.
So for
work ethic, they were my brothers, but they saw the money and went, well, I don't know why I'm working for my brother and giving him money when I just go do it my damn self.
Yeah.
So
never easy, is it?
Yeah, I can't.
So KBF is doing some things this year to help kind of, bring more people into kayak bass fishing. They're going to do like a recreational league. We're calling it the Knucklehead Bass Fishing League, and it's, $15 a month. And it's really to get people introduced into it, a little fun, yet competitive. So, their buddies can do some smack talking and stuff like that too. But what advice would you give a brand new kayak angler, whether they come from fishing on the bank or they've been fishing in boats? What kind of advice would you give somebody that's just getting started in a kayak and wanting, they may be kayak fishing for a bit, but they're just going to start fishing in these local derbs? What kind of advice would you give them for starting out?
Put me on the spot. I think go out there and so I think go out there and fish the way you want to fish. Don't fall for the dock talk, you know, and don't worry about the most expensive lures on the market, because you know a single little Colorado blade spinnerbait will catch them just as much as the guys. Well, I'm guilty of it. My $30 mega bass jerk baits, you know. A Smithwick jerk bait will catch them at $3.99, as it will with that. I don't know if that comes across as how I'm trying to explain it, but
no, it makes sense, because a lot of people focus on over worrying about gear and electronics and live scope and
just go
electric trolling motors and all the other stuff.
Yeah, Glenn's
telling y'all just to go fish.
That's part of the fun too, you know. That'll come in time. It's, you know, every year the rigging. I mean, even though, like I said, I'm turning in a warranty on this, and if it comes through and I get a new PA this year, I enjoy rigging, you know. Tearing that thing down and thinking of changing a few things here and there. And so starting out, and you got like a ride 115 or something, and you're hand paddling. So what? Get an anchor, you know, to set up on that offshore stuff. And the fish don't care about that damn anchor down there. You know, just like they don't care about airboats down south. I heard a lot of guys complaining, well, the airboat went right through where I was fishing, or this boat came right through my.
Them fish have heard them boats their whole lives.
Exactly. Those fish have beds set up right at the edge of those airboat trails. They don't give two darns about them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They don't care about the guy. The guy's dog could go swimming through right in front of you. That doesn't scare the fish away.
Yep.
But anyway.
Yeah, and I get the thing about the gear too, because many of us started out with, you know, the couple $100, you know, Walmart kayak.
Yeah.
And then maybe you upgraded to something a little bit better, you know, to be able to stand up in. You know, my first fishing kayak was like a Sun Dolphin something or another. Yeah. And then I ended up a couple years later in an Old Town topwater paddle yak that was a fishing kayak. Yeah. And, you know, you kind of, as you get better at it and rig them out, and it's like, oh, okay, I want to be able to do this. If fish bigger, you know, you might get a pedal drive. And then you might throw a motor on that, or move into like I did this year with the Cadillac. You know, you kind of evolve over time, or, you know, there's a lot of people that still just paddle, and that's the way they like to fish, and that's their preference.
Yeah.
Because we can all get into chasing gear. That's, you know, but that's like collecting tackle and, you know, anything else. It kind of happens over time and your collection grows, but don't think you have to have all of the greatest stuff, because the majority of the people that still throughout all of KBF, there's a lot more people paddling than doing anything else. That's just the nature of the sport.
A lot of people. I take you out back right now. I've got two Sun Dolphins out there, and I like getting it. And I don't get in them out on Kentucky Lake or something, or Okeechobee or Kissimmee. But all these rivers up here, there's no better way to fish. I mean, other than my knees start to hurt after a while sitting in that little thing, but they're fun. They're fun. That's what I started on. When I lived down in Palm Beach, that's what I started with, was an 8-foot Sun Dolphin Aruba. You know, just fishing in the canals and pedaling up or hand paddling right up next to gators and smacking them on the head. I didn't care back then. I was pretty stupid, but.
So Bassin with Big Balone wants to know, what is your confidence bait?
Confident. Well, I'd say 2. I'm pretty. I don't want to say I'm well rounded, but I guess I kind of am. I try to in my mind kid myself into thinking I've mastered all the baits in my box, but I'm a big jerkbait fisherman. I think most of the guys in our club know that. Like, if it's jerkbait season, I'm catching fish. Other than that, I like plastics. I mean, like anybody else, like I can really enjoy a Ned rig, but hands down jerkbait. Like, I'll fish it all year round. It doesn't matter if the water surface temp is 84. I'll still throw a jerkbait.
Yeah. Now, do you find yourself offshore more often, fishing deeper spots, or are you just looking for, you know, structure? What's kind of your game plan?
I'll fish deep, but it's not my strong suit.
Okay.
15 foot and in is me. Like if I find the right ledge in 15 foot, I've tried fishing some 30-foot ledges and stuff, suspended fish on Kentucky Lake out in 40 foot. You know, I hear guys, well, I was catching them in 60 foot suspended at 35. I can't catch a fish out there. You can forget it.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. But you get me in 15 foot with like a mega bass, 110 plus one, and I'll sit there and jerkbait them out of there all day long. That's a blast.
So they took bogs off the list this year. Have you got a replacement in mind? Are you going to mess with
I'll probably
Dogwood or Glendale, whatever it is? What's your
I'm not
what's your thoughts?
I'm not a Glendale fan. I mean, I know there's big fish in there. I've caught some 20s in there, but it's just not fun for me.
Right.
So I'm not going to mess with Glendale. I'll probably beat up on bluegrass a little bit.
Yeah.
I was actually, as much as I loathe Monroe, I was actually going to try to do every Monroe event because it's really not that far from where I'm at.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It's the closest thing I have, yet I refuse to go there because I always call it the Dead Sea.
Oh,
and then they took it off the list for me, and then they took bogs, and I'm like, I'm 90 minutes from everything.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm probably, if I fish anything, it'll be bluegrass. And that's probably it. Other than river, I'm definitely, given my work schedule, gonna do at least the white. I really like Tippecanoe, the way it sets up easy if you have a partner. Yeah, you know, to launch and fish like that stretch at Highway 18.
Yeah,
it's just simple, and it can be very rewarding. There's giant small. I've not caught any, but I've hooked them. They always seem to come unpinned on me up there, but I've hooked them over 21 in there. They're big ones in there. It's a blast.
See, my brother and I used to fish when I lived up in, I used to live up in Southport. My brother lives in Greenwood, and we would go and fish out of, back when we had our boat, we'd fish out of Broad Ripple. And we knew that there was like, always like Wednesday night tournaments and guys were catching smallies there. But it wasn't until I became, started following Grubby and watching Tourney X and Fishing Chaos and seeing the size of fish that are basically up in the tippy and then like that northeast side from Broad Ripple up. I'm like, where are these guys catching these tanks? We always caught some smallies around Broad Ripple, but never did I imagine there was like 18, 19s, and 20s up there.
And bigger.
So my brother and I are like, I'm going to come driving up north since I got to drive distance anyway. I want to learn. I want to get on the white and go, like you said, go fish. Go fish the white a little more often this year.
The white's fun. The only thing, like, most of the time I'm by myself. So I've got to pedal upstream as far as I can, and or go down and then pedal back. So that makes it a little tougher for me.
Because you can't go from boat ramp to boat ramp,
Right. Sometimes
if you're ever pre-fishing up there and you just want to go have a day of fun, let us know, because there's a couple of us that we want to learn the white. We've never really, tried. We went, a couple times last year, and but we want to go, for the moving waters thing, and just honestly to catch some smallies,
right?
And because I forgot how much fun they were to catch.
And they're even more fun in the river. Like, I love catching them at St. Clair on the lake because they're just giant, obnoxious footballs. But there's something about a river smallmouth that's just something special,
Just mean. So how many national events do you have on the map this year? Have you kind of got it laid out?
Well, I have the next month and a half, I guess, laid out. I
know you've got a Hobie BOS coming up.
Yeah, I'm going back down to Florida next Tuesday, or this coming Tuesday, I guess. Not tomorrow, but next Tuesday, for the Harris chain for Hobie BOS. And then I don't remember how they fall on the calendar without looking at the phone and everything, but I am doing the Caddo Lake for Hobie BOS, signed up for that. I'm doing Lake St. Clair for KBF for a trail event. And I might do Murray at the end of February. I hear that's a heck of a fishery down there.
Okay.
but it's in South Carolina. I've never even heard of the lake. But
Gotcha.
I hear it's a great place, and I don't know. I look forward to it if I can make it. But
Oh
that's
yeah, I
all.
bet. I
I think
mean,
that's all I've got. I know there's some like the Saskatchewan's in somebody's schedule. It might be Hobie's. I want to do that for sure. I've never been to that, or maybe the New River or something like that over in that area.
yeah.
So I really want to do a good smallmouth river fishery tournament.
Now, are you going to do any of the? Because I know I'm still learning. Who all does what. I know we have IKA, and they have events, but I'm not sure. I think they coincide with other like club events
Right.
and stuff like that too. And I know SIAC's got their stuff too. And then GRUBBY even added two trails this year to kind of make things interesting. You planning on fishing any of those? Or are you just going to stick with like the 5 derbs to qualify for the championship?
I'm probably so I based what I was going to do this year on how well last weekend was going to go. Like
Okay, gotcha.
if I tanked the trail right off the bat, I was like, I'm not going to chase it. But obviously, sitting second in AOI, I'd
Yeah.
be a fool, not to try. If I can get
Put your focus into those, yeah, most definitely.
two more top tens, and the way I understand it, if I get 2 more top tens, then I'll probably make the 10 house again next year, which would be just crazy huge. So
yeah, and I like the fact that you can double up on a weekend to give yourself, because I can't remember if it's the best 3 or best 4 this year. I remember Chad was talking about it, but starting out with 2 top 10 finishes right off the bat's a great start.
Yeah. So I'm looking to try to get into the 10 house again, but not the hard way.
Well, yeah, amen. Be sitting there waiting on that 11th guy.
Yeah, that would be cool. It was a great experience. Chad did a really great job. I mean,
yeah,
he's super professional. I think it went off without a hitch. I thought everything went really well. We had a little glitch,
awesome.
I think, or something with the Wi-Fi, but there's no service there. Can't fault him for that. So.
Yep. I mean, it happens, and I'm sure they'll release a good video later, with all the highlights, with the stuff that Austin took too. But
Right.
Man, I certainly appreciate you joining us tonight.
Yeah.
I know you were doing another show before tonight too, but I wanted to be one of the first ones to get you on air, being a local grubby guy, and then right here shooting it out to the KBF page as well for those who catch this later. But man, what an awesome start to the year.
I know. I'm excited to see where it goes. We'll see.
So tell everybody who you're sponsored by, because we got to take care of the people who take care of us.
Yeah, for sure. Motor Guide, for sure. They take care of me every year. Couldn't do it without my XI3. I would think I would like to have a Torpedo. They're more than welcome to send me one. I'll put it to the test. But they take care of me every year, and I chewed through the thickest of garbage I could find down in Florida all week, and it never faulted. Miller Tech lithium batteries. I've had some other lithium batteries in the past, and these are the cat's meow. I don't know how else to say it. It's like power your passion is their thing, and it flat does it. I think at one point I ran, just for instance, the day I did 11 miles on Hatch would have been 22 miles round trip. I still had 60% of my battery left. It's got a little digital gauge. That's just crazy. I mean, that's crazy.
Amazing. I mean, it's amazing how good the batteries are these days. And Miller Tech is actually one of the sponsors from GRUBBY. So go to GRBYIndiana.com and check out that sponsor page, and be good to those who take care of us for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And who's your favorite bait company?
Biz Baits. Let me tell you, they just picked me up. I think I plugged them enough where one of the guys that's on the team called me and said, listen, I was going to place an order because going back down there, I wanted to have the same bait, and they don't even make them anymore. So I contacted the guy and said, listen, can you get me some Sam? I contacted Sam and said, can you get me some of these? He's like, let me see what I can do. And like, I'm running out of time before I leave next Tuesday with shipping. So I messaged him yesterday and I said, listen, is there just a grubby code, something maybe, I might use for a small discount to cover shipping or whatever? He's like, don't place the order. Just wait a minute. How would you like to be on? You just want to be on the team. We're going to make you part part of Biz Baits, and I was like, hell yeah, that's just that's sweet. But and it's not just based on last weekend. Like I've been buying these baits for the last season and a half, 2 seasons, and
Yeah.
like I'm digging through my center hatch, and what am I gonna throw? What am I gonna throw? I got this name brand, and I'm looking. I'm like, ooh, Mag Dizzy. I know I'm throwing that bad boy because it catches fish. I'm looking at this. This son of a bitch has been sitting on my boat in the garage for 2 weeks now, and it still stinks. I mean, and I got it on the bed. I'm probably gonna get in trouble.
Well, I think honestly, I think the greatest ambassadors of a brand are the folks that actually use and talk about the products. I mean, I know
Yeah.
exactly what you mean. So that's really awesome to hear, and I'm glad to hear that they picked you up because you fish their stuff. You obviously do well with it.
Right.
What more can be said than an angler that catches fish with your products? And you've been advertising for them for free for the last couple of years, and now it paid off. So that's excellent.
Yeah, and I would still advertise for them for free. I mean, I think they're that good. I truly do. So moving on from there, I got YOLO Tech. They power my GoPro and everything. I've got a code. I have to pull it up. Maybe I'll put it in the comments later if you're looking.
Yeah, do that because my brother's got one on his kayak, and I actually want to get one of those too because I saw your light back there.
Oh yeah.
And I want to be able to have something like that for those nights that you're fishing a little later than normal, or when you're trying to get out first thing. I was like, that is awesome. I definitely need a Yellow Tech on my Old Town for sure.
Yeah, it's nice. That Power Stick 53 with the light is crazy bright. You can night fish all night long with it. It works great. And K9 Fishing Line, I get all my line through them. I swear by it.
Yeah.
So, but that's about it for me. Well, Picasso lures, Jesus, I can't forget them.
Yeah, there you go. I was gonna say, is there anybody you want to shout out that you're not partnered with yet, but you might want to be?
Yeah, I don't know. Hobie wants to pick me up. I'm all about it.
There you go. So you got to talk to them guys at Sun Valley Sports, or you get you in them Hobies. But I understand 100%. All right, my dude. Well, I thank you again because I know you went back to back tonight, and I thank you for giving us your time. And man, good luck this season. You've got a lot of fans, believe it or not, here in Indiana that root for every one of you guys that get out there and do what you do. It's fun to watch, and it's even cooler because having got to know you a little bit when we were down in Kentucky, it just makes it that much awesome to be like, hey, I know that dude. He kicks my ass every weekend. But I'm happy to root for him every time he goes out and gets on that national stage. So, again, dude, thanks a lot for hanging out with us tonight. Appreciate it.
Yep, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody, that wraps up this version of Grubby Talk. We'll be back again later. Take care. Have a good night. God bless.
Later.